Napoleon Bonaparte. The very name echoed with the clang of steel, the roar of cannon, and the thunder of cavalry charges. Born in Corsica, Napoleon rose through the ranks of the French military during the tumultuous years of the French Revolution. His tactical brilliance and unyielding ambition quickly set him apart from his peers. The thunder of cavalry charges, the disciplined march of his infantry, and the strategic placement of his artillery were all hallmarks of his military genius. He was a man who understood the art of war like few others. From the sun-drenched fields of Italy to the snow-choked wastes of Russia, he had carved an empire with his sword, crowned himself emperor, and reshaped the destiny of nations. His campaigns were legendary, his victories numerous, and his ambition boundless. He redrew the map of Europe, toppling old regimes and establishing new ones. His influence extended far beyond the battlefield, affecting the political and social fabric of the continent. Yet his rise to power was not without its challenges and enemies. Yet across the narrow channel, a storm brewed in the person of Arthur Wellesley, the Duke of Wellington. Born into an aristocratic Anglo-Irish family, Wellington's path to military greatness was markedly different from Napoleon's. He was a man of discipline, order, and meticulous planning. Wellington, the Iron Duke, a title earned through his unyielding tenacity and the discipline he instilled in his troops. His soldiers were well-trained, well-equipped, and well-led, a reflection of his own military philosophy. He was a master of defense, a strategist who understood the bitter mathematics of war. His ability to hold ground and repel attacks was legendary, making him a formidable opponent for any aggressor. Strategist who understood the bitter mathematics of war, Wellington meticulously planned his campaigns, leaving little to chance. His attention to detail and his ability to anticipate his enemy's moves were key to his success. Where Napoleon was fire and fury, a whirlwind of energy and aggression, Wellington was ice and calculation, a paragon of calm and precision. Their contrasting styles made their eventual confrontation all the more inevitable and intriguing. Wellington was ice and calculation, a leader who preferred to outthink his opponents rather than outfight them. His cool-headed approach to warfare was the perfect counterbalance to Napoleon's fiery temperament. Their paths, destined to collide, promised a confrontation for the ages. The world watched with bated breath as these two titans of military strategy moved ever closer to their inevitable clash. The world held its breath. The anticipation was palpable, the tension almost unbearable. Soldiers on both sides prepared for what they knew would be a decisive battle, a moment that would shape the course of history. Two titans, each embodying a different facet of military genius, were poised to clash. Napoleon, the master of offense, and Wellington, the master of defense, were on a collision course that would determine the fate of nations. The fate of Europe, perhaps the world, hung in the balance. The stakes could not have been higher, and the outcome was far from certain. Both leaders knew that this battle would be the ultimate test of their skills and their resolve. This was not just a battle of armies. It was a battle of wills, a test of endurance, and a clash of ideologies. The soldiers who fought under their banners were not just fighting for territory, but for the very future of Europe. It was a battle of wills, a clash of eagles on the field of destiny. The determination and resolve of each leader would be put to the ultimate test, and only one would emerge victorious. A clash of eagles on the field of destiny. The world watched, waited, and wondered who would prevail in this epic confrontation. The stage was set, the players were ready, and the final act of this grand drama was about to unfold. Napoleon, a whirlwind of energy, led from the front. His presence on the battlefield was electrifying, a beacon of hope and determination for his troops. He was not just a commander, he was a symbol of French resilience and ambition. He possessed an uncanny ability to inspire his men, to ignite in them a fervor that bordered on fanaticism. His charisma was unmatched, and his speeches could turn the tide of morale in an instant. The soldiers saw in him a leader who shared their hardships, who was willing to risk his life alongside them. His soldiers would follow him into the very jaws of hell, their faith in Le Petit Caporal absolute. They believed in his vision of a grand French empire, and this belief fueled their courage and tenacity in battle. The bond between Napoleon and his men was forged in the fires of countless battles, each victory strengthening their loyalty. His genius lay in his offensive brilliance, his lightning-fast maneuvers, and his ability to exploit the smallest advantage with overwhelming force. Napoleon's strategies were often unpredictable, catching his enemies off guard. He was a master of the art of war, constantly innovating and adapting to the changing dynamics of the battlefield. Wellington, in stark contrast, was a master of defensive warfare. His approach was methodical and calculated, always seeking to minimize risks and maximize the strengths of his position. He was a student of military history, learning from the successes and failures of past commanders. He understood the value of terrain, the importance of choosing the right battlefield. Wellington's keen eye for strategic locations allowed him to set up formidable defenses that were nearly impregnable. His ability to read the landscape and anticipate enemy movements was unparalleled. His men, drilled to within an inch of their lives, were renowned for their discipline and unwavering courage under fire. The British soldiers, under Wellington's command, were a testament to his rigorous training and leadership. They stood firm in the face of overwhelming odds, their resolve unshaken. He was a pragmatist, willing to endure heavy losses if it meant securing victory in the end. Wellington's focus was always on the bigger picture, understanding that sometimes sacrifices were necessary for the greater good. His ability to remain calm and composed during the chaos of battle was a key factor in his success. These contrasting styles, fire against ice, attack against defense, made their rivalry all the more compelling. The dynamic between Napoleon's aggressive tactics and Wellington's defensive strategies created a fascinating chess game on the battlefield. Each move and counter-move was a testament to their military genius. Napoleon, the audacious gambler, always seeking the decisive blow. His willingness to take risks and his relentless pursuit of victory made him a formidable opponent. He thrived on the chaos of battle, using it to his advantage to outmaneuver his enemies. Wellington, the patient hunter, waiting for the opportune moment to spring his trap. His patience and strategic foresight allowed him to turn the tide of battle in his favor. He was always one step ahead, anticipating his enemy's moves and preparing his defenses accordingly. Their clash was inevitable, a contest between two diametrically opposed yet equally brilliant military minds. The Battle of Waterloo was the culmination of their rivalry, a dramatic showdown that would determine the fate of Europe. It was a battle not just of armies, but of ideologies and leadership styles, each commander bringing their unique strengths to the fore. Their rivalry was not confined to a single battlefield. It was a clash of titans, a struggle for supremacy that spanned years and continents, shaping the destinies of nations and the course of history itself. It was a contest waged across continents, a relentless pursuit of dominance that saw battles fought in the deserts of Egypt, the plains of India, and the rugged terrains of the Iberian Peninsula. This was no ordinary war. It was a chess match played out over years of relentless conflict, with each move calculated, each battle a strategic maneuver in a grand game of power and conquest. Napoleon's star had first risen on the blood-soaked sands of Egypt, where his military genius shone brightly. His victories over the Mamluks were not just battles won, they were statements of intent echoing across Europe and announcing the arrival of a formidable force. The battles in Egypt were brutal and decisive, with Napoleon's tactical brilliance on full display. His ability to outmaneuver and outthink his enemies set him apart, and his triumphs in Egypt were a testament to his growing legend. Wellington, meanwhile, was cutting his teeth on the battlefields of India, honing his skills and learning the art of command against a cunning and resourceful enemy. The Indian campaigns were a crucible of experience, shaping him into the leader he would become. In the heat of battle, Wellington learned to adapt, to think on his feet, and to lead with a steady hand. His experiences in India were invaluable, teaching him the importance of strategy, discipline, and the effective use of his troops. Their paths, though yet to directly intersect, were drawing closer. The stage was being set for a confrontation that would shake the foundations of Europe and determine the fate of empires. Napoleon's ambitions knew no bounds. His vision of a European empire under his control drove him to push the limits of his power, sweeping across Europe with an unstoppable force. He swept across Europe, crushing armies and redrawing maps with each victory. His campaigns were marked by swift, decisive actions that left his enemies reeling and his name feared across the continent. Wellington, dispatched to the Iberian Peninsula to combat Napoleon's forces, faced a daunting task. The rugged terrain and the determined resistance of the local populations made the Iberian campaigns some of the most challenging of his career, yet Wellington proved a thorn in the emperor's side. His strategic brilliance and unyielding determination led to a series of victories that began to turn the tide against Napoleon's seemingly invincible forces. He inflicted a series of defeats upon Napoleon's marshals, proving that the French were not invincible. These victories were not just military successes, they were psychological blows that began to erode the myth of Napoleon's invincibility. The Iberian campaigns were a crucial proving ground for Wellington. Here, he refined his defensive tactics, learning to use the terrain to his advantage and to coordinate the efforts of his multinational forces. He refined his defensive tactics, creating formidable lines of defense that could withstand the might of the French assaults. His ability to fortify positions and hold ground became a hallmark of his military strategy. He learned to maximize the strengths of his British, Portuguese, and Spanish troops, forging a cohesive and effective fighting force from diverse elements. This ability to unify and lead a multinational army was a key factor in his success and demonstrated a strategic acumen that rivaled Napoleon's own. His ability to anticipate his enemy's moves and to counter them with precision and decisiveness marked him as one of the great military minds of his time. These victories, though seemingly small in the grand scheme of Napoleon's conquests, were harbingers of things to come. Each success bolstered the morale of his troops and sowed the seeds of doubt among the French ranks. The seeds of doubt had been sown. The once unassailable aura of Napoleon's invincibility was beginning to crack, and the confidence of his enemies was growing. The emperor's aura of invincibility was cracking. The relentless pressure of Wellington's campaigns and the accumulating defeats were taking their toll, signaling a shift in the balance of power that would eventually lead to Napoleon's downfall. As always, please like this video and drop us a subscribe. It really does help. Thank you.